Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyabari Paschatya Veshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyabari Paschatya Veshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Radha Sri Vaishnavi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Radha Sri Vaishnavi Gaura Bhakta Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Radha Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Radha Shri Vaishnavi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Oh Jayo Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Gauranitai. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Radha Govardhana Dari Radha Govardhana Dari Sri Radhe Govardhana Dari Radha Nitai Gauda Haribo, 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 Nitai Gauda Haribo. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you everyone for being here. Hare Krishna. So this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, it's a way of addressing the Supreme Person or the Absolute Truth. Every time you or us, we approach someone who's superior than us, we generally have to use some respectful words. In different languages, there are different ways of addressing superior, like in Spanish, you have usted, or in Hindi or Bengali, you say up or apni, right? You're superior, like that. So when we address the Supreme Person, there are different mantras. In this particular mantra, which is called the 12-syllable mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, according to the Bhagavatam, can give us perfection. And there are some yogis, some devotees, some transcendentalists, even as young as these boys and girls, achieve perfection, Dhruva Maharaj and others. So, very important, the science of mantras, it's very, very important because these mantras can help to change our consciousness. So Om is considered the seed, just like the seed of a tree is a little thing, and then such a big tree comes, and then from that tree comes flowers, fruits, and so many other seeds. So in the same way, when we repeat these mantras with attention, and hopefully, or eventually with love and devotion, these act like seeds of transcendence in our hearts, and then gradually we feel more spiritually realized, shall we say. We start detaching ourselves from the body and from all these things that the body wants and things that owns, and then we get anxious, We may think, oh, I have a beautiful body, or I have a beautiful wife or kids or husbands or friends. But then the body starts decaying, and all the other bodies also start decaying, and then we start suffering. What's going to happen with me? Right? How can I stop getting old, or how can I stop getting sick, and all these sort of things? So, the Bhagavad-gita gives us the solution to many of our anxieties, and so I was requested to give class today, and I thought that just like we did, I don't know how long ago was the last class, maybe a month ago or so. month and a half. And generally the format in these particular classes on Mondays, I mean, I always like to give summaries. Who here is reading Bhagavad-gita or has read Bhagavad-gita or partly or yes, you know. Yes, you're starting reading Bhagavad-gita. So we all are in the same boat. So that's a good thing. Right, so the format in which these particular classes or sessions on Monday are done is that there are questions. We start upside down. Generally the questions are at the end, but here in this particular class, the questions are at the beginning. So the question is, what is your question? You have any questions? You have a question. Okay, let's just start there, and then we can summarize things. But it's good to start differently to see what happens.
Thank you, Iksvaku Prabhu, for giving class. I missed this class, so it's good to be back. So I was just reviewing chapter 6 of Bhagavad-gita in the last week, and just trying to understand this process of Ashtanga or Dhyana Yoga, and understand who are these mystic yogi, and what's their goal, and eventually where would they go. This mic is very high. Where would they go if they achieve liberation? Because I've always read and I've always discussed that yogis, they will merge, if and when they achieve liberation, they will merge into Brahman. They will not enter into Vaikunthas, and what to speak of Goloka Vrindavan. So one question I asked months ago in this class with Devagora Hari Prabhu was why the yogis who meditate on a personal form of God as Vishnu with 4 hands, 4 arms, why do they reach the same destination as the jnanis who they meditate on this impersonal energy of God? And then I had this answer that because they don't have full realization of Bhagavan. So without knowing Krishna, we can't enter his spiritual planet, Krishna Lok. And yes, I have many quotes here, but I won't read them. But then I'm gonna read a few from chapter 6 that just put me in this confusion state. So the 628, verse 628, translation. Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord.
Right.
So here we're talking about transcendental loving service. So we're talking about bhakti. We're talking about service. So 630 in the purport, Prabhupada writes, such a yogi who sees the Lord as Paramatma within the heart turns into a pure devotee. Yeah, better? So such a yogi turns into a pure devotee and cannot bear to live for a moment without seeing the Lord within himself. So again, this transcendental yogi is said to be a bhakta, a pure devotee of the Lord. In 631, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, a yogi who is practicing meditation on the super soul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu. The yogi should know that Vishnu is non-different from Krishna. And here then the next one is nor is there a difference between a Krishna conscious person always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. There is no difference between a Krishna conscious person always engaged in transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul.
Is that there?
Yeah.
Is that in the purport as well?
That's in the purport of 631.
Yeah.
So, I wrote down my question. My question is, how does Ashtanga Yoga ultimately relate to Bhakti Yoga in terms of final perfection? And what is the destiny of the different types of yogis? Does the difference depend on the relationship that a mystic yogi develops with Paramatma? Because then I tried to answer my question, and my understanding, there's like 3 different possibilities, okay? There's a mystic yogi who tries to meditate to achieve siddhis, achieve mystic powers. So it's for personal elevation. Then we have the yogis who they will see Paramatma in their heart, and they will think, oh, this is me, I am God. And then there's the third yogi who will see Paramatma and will recognize, oh, this is Krishna. You know, so, but this is just my speculation. So this is kind of my question, like we're talking about yogis as they realize Paramatma, they can't enter Goloka Vrindavan. But in here, we hear that the perfect yogi, and we're talking about like mystic yogi, not like, you know, that perfect yogi can achieve bhakti, basically, can have this transcendental loving service with the Paramatma. So if you can talk on that, please.
Okay, so first of all, when we're going to analyze something, we need to first define that something. So we're talking about yogis. Sometimes the term yogis, it's used in a very broad way, because you can have jnana yogis, you can have bhakti yogis, for example, just to make the clear difference. Then you can have Ashtanga yogis, and you can have other type of yogis. So there are some common principles for all yogis. Yogis means some people who are connecting. Now, not all connections are the same. I just bought some, what do you call those fast transfer cables? You know, when you are charging your phone, some of them now are very fast, and just in an hour or so you can have 100%, and others may take 16 hours. So I was just testing a couple of cables that I bought, and one was like 10 times faster, right? Both are connected, but one is super fast and the other one is super slow comparatively. So in the same way, when we talk about yogis, there are yogis who may be very, very... Prabhupada gives a simple example. It's like you take the lift, or you're going to go by the stairs. If you go by the stairs, it's going to take a long time. It's troublesome. He says this in the Gita several times. The first question that Arjuna asked in chapter 12, text number 1, is, what's best? The one who's loving you directly, or the one who takes to the impersonal path, right? We just read that, just to give a bit of context. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested, right? So, in regards of that, Krishna explains, obviously, but basically he answers in simple terms in 4 verses later. Text number 5, he says, Klesho digataradash tesham, which means, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. In other words, in general, the easiest path to achieve perfection in Krishna consciousness is by the direct path of bhakti. So that's the framework, like the pendulum. This is very difficult, this is easiest. Now, in between, there are different combinations. Now, you made some statements which are not necessarily correct. For example, whenever we read something, and when you say the yogis cannot achieve Vaikuntha, right? We have to see what's the context. We cannot take a statement either from the Shastra or from Prabhupada, and then we have to see what's the context. And sometimes, to know the context, we have to read the whole purport, the purport ahead, the purport behind, and sometimes the whole chapter, to understand what is that Prabhupada is talking, or the verses are talking, or whoever it is, Krishna talking, or Narada Muni, or Brahma, or whoever it is talking. So we understand what is that we are talking about. For example, when grandfather Bhishma passed away, Srila Prabhupada explains, what chapter is that, 8 or 9 of first canto? 9, I believe, the passing away of Bhishmadev. Srila Prabhupada explains that Bhishmadev is a pure devotee. He's a Mahajan, one of the 12 Mahajans. But he explains that because of his particular attachment to the Lord, he will achieve a certain destination, Vaikuntha planets. That's the mood in which he's fixated. That's his mood. And Prabhupada explains in that chapter in regards of the passing of different yogis, the time of death of different yogis. And earlier when you were framing your question, you said, I want to understand why some yogis, shall we say, qualifying the question, cannot achieve Vaikuntha, or cannot achieve, what to speak of Goloka Vrindavan, you said. The reason is because different yogis have different desires, right? And Srila Prabhupada gives an example, if I'm not wrong, in that chapter, in the first canto. And he explains, or perhaps I have heard classes explaining that, and this is what stuck in my mind. Like sometimes you're driving, yeah, and you don't know, you're not familiar with that area. You guys sometimes go traveling, and I'm sure you find those, you have to be watching at your map, and which one? This one, left, right, whatever, right? So you are like undecisive because you don't know. You haven't been there before. And the road depends. If it's a properly signage around, then it's easier. But when the road is not clearly defined, you may take the wrong exit or take the wrong turn, and you may end up somewhere else. So the example that it's given in that context is that sometimes our understanding about who Krishna is, it's not right. It is known, and Prabhupada explains further in his purports, particularly in Chaitanya Charitamrita. For example, there are people in India, and surely around the world nowadays, that worship Krishna. But they worship Krishna to become Krishna. So there are people who apparently, that's also in Nectar of Devotion, sometimes people are doing pujas and sometimes chanting the names of Krishna. In Puri it's famous that there is a whole sect, even with all due respect, some of the high priests of Puri, they worship Jagannath with the understanding that they are Jagannath, or with the desire that they will become Jagannath. So it's very distorted for devotees to hear that, but that's there. Why? Because, as Prabhupada explains, trying to remember which purport, I think it's in chapter 9, Bhagavad-gita, where Prabhupada says the last snare, the last trap, or the last trick of Maya for the living entity is to think that we are God. And when you mention about the siddhis that the different yogis may achieve, different liberations, different powers and things like that, these are very tempting. And sometimes we may think, or we may feel, or we may experience, and we may convince ourselves that we are very advanced. And we feel very advanced, we chant, dance, this, that. If you're a yogi, I have met yogis of sorts in different parts of the world. And some of them are really, really strict and admirable what they do. I remember meeting this monk, Buddhist monk. He was an American. And he invited us to his ashram. And with other brahmacharis, we accepted the invitation because it's such a beautiful ashram, and we were pitching in Bangkok. And Bangkok, it's a very intense city if you have traveled through it. Horrible, demoniac practically. And so we thought, okay, this is a break, and we're just going to go there and distribute some books in the town and do harinams and things like that. So this monk invited us, and we accepted. Beautiful setting. You could see the beach on the other side, and had a kind of like gurukul and ashram, like that. And we were talking to him, and he was explaining to us the type of meditations that he do. Whenever there is heavy rains, like there were some rains this morning, yeah? What do you do when the heavy rain comes? What do you do? normally, honestly. Go inside. You know what he will do, and another couple of younger monks? He was American, but everyone else was Thai. They will go into the forest. The rain is coming for 2-3 days. They will pack their things, the little lota or whatever else, and they will go to the forest to meditate for 2-3 days. Right? Because they want to fix their mind, they want to strengthen their mind and enhance their meditation, etc. I mean, we're not going to compare now Buddhism and Vaishnavism, but the point is that sometimes these yogis in general, shall we say, they are very, very powerful. And we may see these practitioners and we may think, wow, these people are advancing. This is not for us to go around and like a sheriff and try to shoot everybody in yellow card, red card, like in soccer or other sports. But this is for us to understand that yogi can mean many, many things. Even if a yogi is not only meditating in Paramatma, what to speak of meditating in Paramatma? Doing pujas, right? Now, due to the influence of Srila Prabhupada and his movement in India, I remember the first time I went to India in early '87. Every holy place, Puri, Vrindavan, and Mayapur, and then I went to other places, Tirupati, etc., were like shanty towns. We're like nothing compared to what it is right now. But now it has, I went to Rishikesh, you barely could find a place to stay, right? You won't see foreigners like now, I go to Rishikesh or I go to other places, holy places, with the devotees, and there's signs in Russian. In Rishikesh, there are signs in Spanish, in other languages, right? So it has evolved so much. So what happens is that the phenomenon that we have observed is that it's good business, right? This spiritual industry has become a good business. And therefore, there are so many temples everywhere. Because a lot of pilgrims go to these holy places, and then they go to a temple and they give donations, and then you maintain a few families with that, yeah? But what is the understanding of those people who have deities? So we may say, it says the yogis, of course, the yogis who have ulterior motives, Srila Prabhupada says. What to spend in, but we see people that are worshipping deities and they are not going definitely to Vaikuntha. So the term of yogi, it's very broad. So what Prabhupada and the Shastras are doing is to explain to us that just like a needle has an eye there, right? It has a little eye there. And I remember, I've told this story many times, that when I was a little kid and my grandma used to call me because I have better eyesight, at least at that time, and then I was able to pass the thread. She couldn't see properly with her glasses, she couldn't. So she called me, she patted me, says, oh, please do this. And I love to do that, I still remember. I will feel like a genius because I was able to pass the thread through the eye of the needle. So, in the same way, Prabhupada, the Acharyas, and the Vaishnavas, and the Shastras are explaining that for us to enter, right, Vishyate tat anantaram, many times, homework for those who are studying Bhagavad-gita and other Shastras, how many times in the Bhagavad-gita Krishna says, come back to me? That's a homework for you. How many times? So many times. I know a few places, I don't know exactly, or I forgot how many, because we have done those exercises. But pay attention, I call these the back to Godhead verses. How many times Krishna says, you come back to me. If you think of me, you come back to me. If you surrender, you come back to me. How many times? Now, we may say, okay, if I surrender, okay, I'm here, surrender. I surrender my hair, I surrender my clothes, I surrender. So many things I surrender. So I'm supposed to go. It's not as easy. Because, the eye of the needle is very, very specific. And I don't know if you have that experience, But now every time I want to pass a thread through the eye of the needle, and when it gets stuck, and then the more you push, the less it goes in, right? You know that, right? So I go like, and then you wet it a little, and now I put lights, and I put a magnifier, and my wife is saying, you can do it. She's encouraging me. And I just get so frustrated, because I remember, decades ago I was able to do it easily. So in the same way, when we are trying to enter into a right understanding of Krishna consciousness, then we find that it's not good enough just to be a yogi, or just to dress up like this, or however you want to dress, and look like a yogi. It's much more than that. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he summarizes this. He says that the main characteristics of a true bhakta, Hari Bhakta, is someone who is non-duplicitous. He calls separatist. That's the word he used, separatist. He wrote this book, Vaishnavake. It's a poem that Srila Prabhupada started to translate. And my spiritual master, Jayapataka Maharaj, he continued that translation and commented on that book. In the book, it's called, in English, What Kind of Devotee Are You? What kind of devotee are you? So, it's a conversation between Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and his mind. And he's telling his mind, Tumi Kishira Vaishnava. He's telling as if he's talking to the what do you call? Mirror. Huh? My dear mind, what kind of devotee are you? You are thinking that you're a great advanced soul, and you retreat in isolation and chant all day long. If you see someone like that, if one of us do something like that, wow, everyone is like, wow, Prabhu chants the whole day. Amazing. Oh, Mataji chants the whole day. Right? Everyone will be like, oh, we'll give them garlands and trophies and medals. Right? This is what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said. And all that just to get some adoration from others. So imagine someone who's chanting the holy name, full Vaishnava, tilak, and these saris, and dhotis, and kuntis, and the whole thing. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says, you're a pretender. You're a pretender. So, what to speak of yogis? Even bhaktas cannot enter Vaikuntha or Krishna Loka if we have a tinge of material desires. Now, there is something that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in one of his books, because the deeper we go into it, then we need the help of devotees. Then we need the help of the acharyas and the shastras. Let's not try to understand everything just with our limited brain power. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls something quite interestingly. He called the Bhakti Anarthas. You heard this? Bhakti Anarthas. Bhakti Anarthas. What does Anartha mean? Unwanted things. Artha means something that you want, right? Anartha means something that you don't want. Unwanted things, desires and things like that. So how is it? I heard a seminar by Ramapat Swami, and that's when it caught my attention, because he mentions this. What are these Bhakti Anarthas? Bhakti are meant to eradicate Anarthas. Huh? But he calls it Bhakti Anarthas. What are the Bhakti Anarthas? That by becoming a devotee and practicing devotional service, people will start admiring you. If you give class, they'll put you a garland on you. Give a seat. They'll put a microphone. Because of my hip that it's injured, I have to sit up here. But even if I sit on the floor, there is some power differential. And then as soon as I start thinking, oh, I deserve this. I'm better than all of you. Blah, blah, blah. Right? And I'm enjoying that admiration or that honor, or sometimes people give, so somebody just knocked my door. And Julan Mataji just was bringing some cakes for my wife and some mangoes, right? And I'm like, oh, thank you, thank you. The moment we start thinking, I deserve all this because I'm such a good this or such a good that, and I have done this, I have done that, boom, that's it. The thread gets stuck in the eye of the needle and goes the other way. And again, another life. We don't know. Any moment. When we were bhaktas, we were told different, I will call them legends. Nowadays, everything is online, everything is printed and transcribed, so it's very difficult to now tell legends. But not everything is recorded, or not everything is scripted, not everything is written. One of the legends that were going around in the ashrams in those days, in the 80s, was that Vishnu Swami used to say that you have to live your life as if it was the last day. Every day, the legend says, the Vishnu Swami would say, this could be the last day, so make the most of it. So meaning, come on, you gotta get it right. So in other words, yogi or bhakti yogi or any kind of yogi that slacks definitely cannot enter. And in order to exemplify that and to give a graphic example of that, we have the pastime of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj in the Bhagavatam, he was already at the level of Baba. There's sadhana, there's Vaidhi, sadhana bhakti, there is Raganuga, sadhana bhakti, then there is Bhava, and there is Prema. All that is described in the first 19 chapters of the Nectar of Devotion. So we covered all that with the Bhakti Shastri group, and it's like a long staircase. You go on, I remember that I used to work in a hospital in Perth, and sometimes I work in the 8th or the 9th floor, right? And I remember and there are several devotees working there. So we had a bit of a deal. And then we say that we wouldn't use lift. So we'll go eight stairs. What do you call it? 8 floors, thank you. 8 floors, right? And at the 8th floor or 9th floor. But you get fit after a few days doing that. So it was just, and it's a mental thing, so we were going, sorry, are you using the lift? No, just to be fitter, right? Because otherwise you're there stuck in those wards. So in the same way, when we are advancing or aiming at advancing in devotional service, it can sometimes become kind of a tedious endeavor. I don't know your experience, but I'm lazy and conditioned. So at some point it's like, again, 16 rounds, again? Yesterday I did them, and I did them, properly, and today I have to do them all over again. Minimum 16 rounds. And 16 rounds is just like the very, very basic, especially for Westerners. So at some point we can think, oh my God, no, you know what? I'm halfway, I'm just going to take the lift. So Krishna tests us in different ways, yeah? So we have to be extremely, extremely, extremely careful. I mean, we're not talking about yogis and paramatmas, we're talking about devotees, bhaktas. And there are examples in the Bhagavatam, and there are examples in ISKCON. And I don't recommend you to dig too much online or listen to things, but it's true. There have been many, what do you call that? Airplane crashes. Can we call them like that? When the planes crash, Plane crashes. Horrible. Hundreds of people dying. Yeah? And we have had some disasters like that in ISKCON. But as the saying goes, nothing happens for no reason. So sometimes when these things happen, then we can see, wow, if that devotee fell, if that Prabhu or Mataji or couple or whatever, Guru, Sannyasi or whatever, whoever, had this problem, what about me? I'm just like an insignificant, and no one, imagine. So all these statements are in general for us to tell us that it's not so easy as we think. And sometimes we may see yogis and they may appear. It's very tricky to trust your senses. That's one thing. And that's why the Vedas present 3 ways to confirm something. One is what we see or what we hear, it's through sensorial perception. The other one is theory, tarka, arguments, or anuman, it's called, right? And the other one is coming down from the parampara. We accept that's the theory, that it's given, the self-realized theory. It's theory until we become self-realized and it's not theory anymore. What does realize mean? Anyone? No, my turn to do questions. What does realize mean? To be, anything, realize. What's the etymology? What's to understand? Yeah? What's that?
Something becomes real.
Real. It starts from the word real. Realize. It becomes real. So once Krishna consciousness is not anymore a theory, it's something real. Right? Then we're talking a different language. Sometimes you don't even need to talk too much. Because it's there already. Right? Right? I remember when I had my injury nearly 4 years ago, I thought I broke my back, and I should or could have broken my back, and I thought I broke my back, where some wave caught me and I got slammed against the reef and all that. And I shouted like never before in my life. I shouted, I screamed, how do you say that, like howling. And my son was surfing, and he just in 2 seconds, he was standing there, tears in my eyes, and it was so painful. And at that moment, I realized that it's not a playground place, right, for us to have fun. All my life, all these decades, for me, swimming, going to the beach, goofing around with the waves has been so much fun. That moment, that illusion was gone. And I remember that after it took me to the hospital and the whole thing. And then when I was back home, Burijan Prabhu and his family came to visit me. And the first question he asked me, he said, whom did you take shelter of? He always asked these questions, very incisive, very probing. Who did you take shelter of? And I said, I have to say humbly that at that point I didn't think of my mom. I didn't think even of the doctors or anyone. I thought my back is broken and I'm done. And I just thought, the only one who can help me is Krishna. So my Guru Maharaj and Krishna, please help me. But I was suffering, meaning that because I was suffering, I was thinking of Krishna that intently. Otherwise, I was thinking, I'm just going to have some good fun, some waves, night afternoon, sun, people joking around and all that. So the point is that when something becomes real, then it's a different story. So we need to aim to realize who is Krishna, but more importantly, or rather, initially, who are we? Because we talk, who are we? We are the soul. Who are we? The spirit soul. Our Atma. Yeah, servants of the Supreme Lord. Yeah. We are Brahmasmi, we're spirit. Yeah. We're not the body. Right? And it's very important this, because I believe from the things that I have gone through, rights and wrongs, and what I have seen in the movement, that we haven't learned that. We haven't realized that. We say it 1,000 times. At one point, you look back and think, how many times have you said, I'm not the body, I'm the soul. I'm not the body, I'm the soul. Like Mahatma Prabhu says, you say, I'm not the body, I'm the soul, until you have a toothache. Until you are under the drill of a dentist. then you are really the body, because you are so connected with that. And it's sad to say, but like my Guru Maharaj once he told me, people say that we learn by hearing, but generally we learn by suffering. And this world is set for us to go through some suffering. Doesn't matter how nice, how beautiful, how rich, even how pious. Huh? Everyone will suffer. Because the rule of thumb in this material is this. This is the one devotee friend. He's in the sannyasa list now. He used to say that we in this material world, you see every cloth has a tag. The brand is there, yeah, left hand side. And the tag is, everyone with this material body, just like a piece of clothes, this body is just like a piece of cloth. And the tag is that you will be attached to something or someone. Does that make sense? We will be attached to something or someone, everybody, in some way or another. Right? We may play retouch and this, but we are going to be attached. Now, the trick, the putting the thread through the eye of the needle, is how to be attached, right, to someone or to something in Krishna consciousness. That is the whole thing. Is it right? Wives or children or property or body, this belongs to Krishna. That is the underlying definition of absolute truth. And when that's not understood, which chapters of the Bhagavad-gita have the word absolute in their title? In their title. 7, it's called Knowledge of the Absolute. 1. Another one? Yeah? Chapter 13 title? That's not absolute. I'm asking for the word absolute. Nature, enjoying, and consciousness. That's the thing. The word absolute is not there. Which other? You know. Just think. It's in the middle section. It's close to chapter 7. Chapter 10? Chapter 10? Opulences of the Absolute. The word absolute, I'm going to sort of wrap it up with this. The word absolute, it's the goal of our life. We know who the Absolute is, Krishna, right? But before we know Krishna and Leelas and pastimes and gopis, we need to understand 2 things. Who we really are and who's the Absolute. That's why chapter 7 it's called Knowledge of the Absolute. And in that chapter, there's no questions, right? The teacher said, all right, like in Bengali you say, you speak Bengali or Hindi? What do you speak? Nepali. Acha. I don't know Nepali. It's a little similar to Hindi. But in Bengali you say chup karo. Chup karo means be quiet. Don't talk. Takshirino, Krishna says, now you listen. And in that chapter he explains what is the Absolute. The Absolute is very simple in one sense, at least the theory. We have the concept of God, right? Yeah? God, it's in Sanskrit how you say God? Bhagavan, Ishvara, that's the word. Ishvara means the controller. When you understand the concept of God, or Ishvara in Sanskrit, and the concept of the energies, yeah? The energies, how you say energy? Prakriti, or Shakti, energy, Prakriti, like that. And all the energies, internal energy, spiritual, external energy, yeah? And marginal energy, right? That's explained in the Bhagavad-gita, chapter 7, in the beginning. When we understand God and the energies, and there is nothing outside of that combination, that is the absolute truth. Okay? I mean, that's simple, right? Shishupanishad, it's all about the absolute truth. And once we understand who we are, first 6 chapters of the Gita, then we understand where do we come from, the supreme source, the absolute truth, that everything and everyone comes from, the 6 chapters in the middle section of the Gita. And once we understand how to connect those two and get out of this material world, the 3rd section of the Bhagavad-gita, yeah, that makes sense, right? We achieve perfection. No, we start reading Bhagavatam. That's just the beginning. That's just starting the car. Like, oh, I got it. Okay. And then what? You stay there? Turn on the AC, turn on the radio? No. Now we have to go. So where do we go? We go to Bhagavatam. And as soon as you... Who is fast with your phone? You have there? Okay, go to the Bhagavatam, 1st canto, introduction. So as soon as you go there, it's like, you know, when you're going to enter somewhere and you have a, what do you call it, a porter or an usher or, you know, a receptionist, right? And you enter, and what does the person say to you when you enter? Welcome, yes? How can I help you? What else? What can I do for you? You got it? First line? Okay, say it out loud because it's important. You have it in mind. Okay, please pay attention to this. Very important.
The conception of God and the conception of absolute truth are not on the same level.
Pause. Conception of God and conception of the absolute truth are not on the same level. Okay, so there's a differentiation there.
The Srimad Bhagavatam hits on the target of the absolute truth.
Yeah? So, Bhagavad-gita aims at helping us to understand who we are, where do we come from, and where are we going. All right? Now you know where your ticket it's going to take you. But now you have to go to the airport. So Prabhupada is welcoming us there.
The conception of God indicates the controller, whereas the conception of absolute truth indicates the summum bonum of the ultimate source of all energies.
All right? These lizards are dying to take a human form. They always want to participate in the conversations. So if we understand those two things, then our path to achieve perfection is widely open. But if we don't, doesn't matter if we are yogis, Paramatma yogis, meditators, pujaris, bhaktas, sannyasi, guru, whatever, we will not make it. That's simple as that. No, but Lord Chaitanya is very merciful. And Prasadam here in New Govardhana is very opulent and 3 times a day, and you know, the gulab-jams and the morning sweets and all that. Yeah, okay. That's nice. Yeah, keep deluding yourself, because otherwise why Prabhupada gave us all this knowledge? Yeah, we love our kids, we love our families, we love, you know, but if we don't give, or if we don't take this, then it's another life wasted. And we don't know where we're going to take birth. Like a lizard, maybe, in my case. I will be shouting from up there. Right? So we have to take advantage. That's the purpose of all these statements in regards of yogis not making it. Now, in order for us to, another question that you said is how to understand Ashtanga Yoga in relationship to Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada does a wonderful job in connecting every aspect of the Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga, who knows the 8 steps? You know? Yama niyama means rules and regulations, do's and don'ts. Yeah? Asana, sit yourself properly. Sit properly. Pranayama, how you breathe, yeah? Pratyahara, which means Yeah? The externals, yeah, okay, like a turtle, yeah? Dharana, yeah? Fix, yeah? Dhyana, meditation, and samadhi. So Prabhupada, what did Prabhupada say in regards of samadhi? You should know, you're brahmacharis. Work hard now and samadhi later. So we don't worry so much about, do a lot of service, come around, jump up and down, read the books, chant Hare Krishna, help the devotees, and be happy. And don't worry too much. Krishna will take care of us. Yeah. 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 Correct. One time, one Swami, an Italian Swami, Somaka Maharaj, he got stuck in Ecuador, and I was assisting him. So he missed his flight. We were in a preaching program, and he missed his flight. So they rebooked him for the next day. So we took him to a hotel, and we were setting him up there so he can take a rest. So I took the opportunity because he was meant to be gone. So all the devotees, so I was there with him, and I said, okay, this is my chance to get some nectar, So late Samaka Swami, Italian Maharaj. We also call him the Pizza Maharaj. He's an expert cook. So I said, Maharaj, what is the secret? Something like that I asked. What is the secret? What is the essence of Krishna consciousness? And then he said, he looked around. He said, the secret is that you are able to fully engage your mind in Krishna consciousness. Not only run around, not only do with your physical body service, but that your mind is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness. 24 hours a day, it is possible. In your dreams, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that we can think of Krishna, serving Krishna, I remember when we were young bhaktas, our leaders used to tell us whenever we had some issue. I remember a couple times we were near miss accidents, car crashes, and we had car crash once. And the bhakta leaders, whenever we came back to the temple, instead of, those were the 80s, right? So it wasn't like, okay, how you feeling? Maybe you need some support, and maybe we can talk it out. You need to debrief. The question was, did you chant Hare Krishna? Did you think of Krishna? Or were you thinking of your mother or your dog, your girlfriend? So I remember I was thinking, these people are too much, so insensitive. But it's true, if something happens, the last thought, and depending, because the last thought is, I'm going to think of Krishna. But think of Krishna means, one Swami was saying, that sometimes Krishna is like when you take a selfie. When you take a selfie, have you seen? Sometimes, we have guests, and they come and take photos with the deities. It's God and I, God and me, right? God there to help me, to serve me, to protect me, to give me, That's why Srila Prabhupada and the Shastras explain that the highest type of service, the best example are the gopis. Because the gopis wouldn't think of anything else but Krishna. But that's very high. I'm not at that level. So we just try to help the devotees, serve the devotees, and be mindful that Maya is very, very, expert. Don't criticize anybody. Rupa Goswami says in the Nectar of Instruction, he gives the three categories of devotees. One is the one who chants Hare Krishna. Krishneti yasya giritan manasadrita. Jai, all glories. Right? Kirtan melas, yes, all glories. Everyone's tripping, spinning. Amazing. Pranams. Then you have the devotees who take initiation, who commit themselves to spiritual master, and they worship Krishna like that. So to them, you pay obeisances, right? But the real association that we have to look for are those devotees that they are fixed and they are expert in their service. And a characteristic that always helped me to remember that I'm not an advanced devotee is that there's no tendency to criticize anybody else. Ananya anya. What's that verse? Remember that verse? Shushusho pajanam vigyam ananya anya. Nindadi sundyam brida ipshita samgalavya. That in your heart there is no a tinge of tendency, not that you're criticizing, the tendency to criticize others. Everyone is better than me. That is a real Vaishnava. And that person, it's very likened by the Lord. Because he's going to say, that one, he's coming. Right? We don't have time to tell the story of the cobbler and the Brahmana, but yeah. If we are simple in mind and we are repentful of our bad qualities, then we have a chance. If not, doesn't matter. Yogi, Bogi, Tyagi, we don't want to make it. That's the reality, isn't it? That's the reality. So it's not to discourage anybody, but I often give this example. Somebody may say, oh, why Prabhu is talking all these things? It's discouraging. Okay. Where are you coming from? Brisbane? Brisbane, okay. Pay attention to this. Melbourne. Ooh. How many signs on the road from here to Brisbane? How many signs on the road? Many. Why? They want to discourage you to go to Brisbane? No. These signs are placed there to protect you, to make sure that you make it to Brisbane or to wherever you go, even from here to the town. Yes? So these statements is to help us that we get there safe. No, just drive at whatever speed you want. Just enter here or there. Just go. No. Don't paint the white line. Don't put any warning. Just who cares? God, whatever. No. So Krishna gives us the Shastra. Krishna gives us the guides and the devotees so we can safely get there. That's the idea. Okay. Any other question? Any other points? No questions? What Prabhupada said, if there are no questions. You understood nothing? Or you understood everything? Yes. Prabhu has a hand first. Vijay Prabhu. That's it.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the class. Before you mentioned that we understand that we are the soul, but the problem is that most of the time we forget when we are talking to others, we always say I, so we always forget. So what we can do to remember that all the time we are the soul?
I remember I had that question. I was actually angry at myself because I was a brahmachari. I was in Hong Kong for some time. And I asked one devotee. And he said, don't look yourself on the mirror. So some brahmacharis wouldn't use the mirror. We had in the brahmachari ashram, there was no mirror. We took the mirrors out. It didn't work. It was just an external thing. But sometimes, one of the things that I have, because it's a matter of remembering, right? And for example, when we do pujas, one of the verses is Naham Vipro na Chanarapatir na Vaishnava Sudra. I'm not a Vaishnava, I'm not a Sudra, I'm not a Brahmana, I'm nothing, I'm not a Grihastha, I'm not a Brahmachari, I'm just Gopivartu Padakamalayor, Dasha Anudasha. I'm not a servant, I'm the servant of the servant of the servant. So I'm the lowest of the lowest. So sometimes verses help us. And I asked that question to a few different people, and I was talking to one devotee temple president in Perth, and he said, do something about it. No, he said, I'm not the body. Okay, so what are you? I'm a servant. Do some service. Get something, start cleaning something. Think, okay, what service can I do next? Okay, I'm going to serve prasada. I'm going to, ask the devotees how they are, or offer something, whatever. So do something. about it. I'm not instructing you, I'm just saying in general, So that's one thing. Remember verses. Srila Prabhupada said, remembering Krishna means memorizing verses. He said that. I read it the other day. You had a question, Prabhu?
You were speaking about bhakti and narratas. And what are the methods for one seeing these and also removing them?
I asked a similar question to Giridhari Swami in Hong Kong, I remember, many years back. It's not a mental exercise. It's not that you have to bend your ego or your intelligence. It's not a material. It's a matter of realization. And then he said, in regards of realization, do what you're meant to do. Right? Do what you're meant to do. If you're meant to, like in the Bhagavatam, it is described, who's that, Priyavrata? That he didn't want to be the king, and then, anyway, Bashu Prabhu was busy because he knows everything there. Bhagavatam. But sometimes you don't want to do something. You don't want to be temple president, or you don't want to be Sankirtan leader, or you want to be guru. But if Krishna wants you to be it, then you do it not because you want it, you do it because you want to please someone else. So whatever you do it as a service, not, oh, I love to do this, I love to do that. If that is your service, then you do it. Everything, 24 hours a day, whatever we do, in my case, that's just a theory, not that I'm doing it. That's what Prabhupada explains.